Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Podcast. Not sponsored by Beaties. That's no slant on Beaties, it's just a fact.
Yeah. But hi, Ted.
Hey, it's a good podcast. I listened to that not long ago. I've listened to some of our stuff not that long ago, which is something I never do. And it's an eye-opening experience. I realized that I'm better at this than I once was, which is a good thing.
Do you enjoy listening to them?
It's bearable. It's bearable. A lot of people don't like to listen to their own voice. That's definitely a common thread among people.
I have grown used to it. Yeah. That's not the issue that I have. It's just sometimes I know I ramble. I feel stupid.
That's what this is about. In the vein of last podcast, where I had a rhubarb type beer from Oast, I now have the competitor, I suppose, Mill Street Brewery Ruby Cove Cream Ale. In my opinion, already, first taste, it's a lighter tasting beer. It tastes better than the last one.
But it's not as light as my beer.
Your opinion, because the last one we had was more tart, in my opinion. This is a more subtle hint of rhubarb. It's more cider-like almost, a little bit.
I like this.
Yeah, it's better than the Oast one. Which, I mean, I didn't really say it last time, but I don't like Oast that much. I don't like most of the things that they put out there. That's a lot better, isn't it?
I could drink that.
Yeah.
I could actually drink that, and that says something. Mill Street
makes pretty good beer.
I may be buying you.
I don't like their stouts. They come out with one once in a while. I think they had like a nitro stout or something. It was garbage, absolute crap. But in general,
So have you tried that brand new Hoppy Ending beer?
that's coming to a movie screen near you at some point.
That was so fun.
Creating a fake beer brand?
Yes.
Yeah. There's so many clever names, and that's why all the craft breweries latch onto these funny little names.
Yeah.
There's so many little spins and puns you can throw out there. Anything to do with hops or suds or whatever you want to pick on, pretty much.
Well, as I said, I figured it's always dumb when you have to cover the label for stuff. When you see movies, and I mean, for Apple products, it kind of makes sense. A lot of people do tape over the Apple logo, but
that's the funny thing. They want the identity of the people in the movie that, their identity is based around. They're an Apple user. They fit in this quirky whatever vibe, whatever Apple means to people. But we can't use the logo. No. So tape or sticker or whatever.
But I hate doing that. So if we can make a brand, and we could never go to a beer company and say, hey, we want to use your beer, because
craft breweries we could, but
all
why
the people
bother?
are underage. They don't.
That's true.
Right? They're high school students. So
enough.
yes, you could say, oh, these people are 19, but they're very obviously portrayed not to be. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But then also most beer companies, for legal reasons, don't like to associate themselves with the debauchery around the beer,
which is understandable.
So
I like
Hoppy Ending.
I like it better. It's a merchandising opportunity, because perhaps one day I will brew in my own backyard.
I give you permission to use Hoppy Ending Pale Ale.
There you go. Pale Ale. Is it an IPA? Is it going to be an IPA?
It has to be.
Because it's hoppy, right? You just load that shit with hops.
Well,
call it
it's
an IPA.
hoppy, and because it's the logo has a bottle ejaculating, so it's pale. Pale Ale.
There you go.
It was very clever.
Perfect. So I'm going to make an IPA at some point, which, from what I gather as well, all the hipsters are into these days.
Here's a question for you. This is totally not interesting to... Well, maybe it's interesting. I don't know. I want to make Blu-rays for the short film. I've never done Blu-rays before.
Okay.
And Blu-rays are problematic because they're harder to burn than DVDs. DVDs
What
are
do you mean they're harder? Just get a Blu-ray burner, about $50, buy writable Blu-rays.
Right, but what about that? Because I like making the menus and stuff like that. So the Blu-ray menu software, I don't have any...
Couldn't be that hard.
Okay. Well then, never mind. Maybe you won't like this idea.
I'm not intimidated by it in the slightest.
If I found a company that was able to produce us Blu-rays with the case and the nice kind of glossy cover and everything with the DVD professionally done, their minimum isn't that bad. Their minimum is 50, which is a lot, but 10 are already gone to cast, right? And we could give them away or whatnot. But how much do you think a company that is in the business of making Blu-rays would sell 50 Blu-rays for?
I would have to say about $95. I'm thinking it's cheap. It has to be cheap.
Right, but more expensive than that.
A lot more? It's not worth it, in my opinion, at all. You can get certain setups where you could even print stuff onto discs, like images,
which is
if you wanted to cover stuff. They used to call it like LightScribe or something. I don't really know what they call it for Blu-rays.
well, I thought it was a good deal. Never mind.
I'm not impressed. I don't like any sort of physical media except for that which has sort of a vintage appeal to it. But that's about it.
And it's cool to have a Blu-ray that you made on a shelf.
Meh. I'd be just as happy to have the digital copy accessible on a computer or streaming service or something.
Okay. Well, then let me put it this way. Every project I've ever made sits on my shelf in some capacity, so it needs to be a Blu-ray. Or DVD if I want to go cheap, because I have the
why not
capabilities of...
Here's the other issue. I mean, just general consumability. Not everybody has a Blu-ray player, but pretty much everybody has a DVD player somewhere, something that plays DVDs. I mean, if you're looking at people that have Blu-ray players, it's either older people that have like a home theater setup, or it's older and younger people that have like a game console in the house, like a PlayStation or an Xbox or something. Those are your typical Blu-ray playing devices. There's not many. I don't know. I feel like people fell off with the physical media at that point and switched to streaming services, so it's not as relatable.
So then, with you as my sound person, these are lists of things that I was going to talk to you about, so why not do it in a public platform?
Perfect.
How could you, as a sound editor, edit in surround sound? Do you have any idea? Would you need
It's if you're not actually recording in a way that lends itself to surround sound, that being multiple audio sources during the recording, it's very strenuous and time consuming, but you can do it. You just have to physically map each sound in each recording or whatever to places.
And I've dipped my toes into some simple stuff before, but every time I watch something with surround sound, it's so much better.
The easiest thing really is to at least record in proper stereo, which the setups that we currently use don't lend themselves to that. Like, yes, Rode makes stereo mics, but they're really not true stereo in the sense that you're going to get a big separation from a left and right channel. Because to me, that's enough. You don't need the 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound to really make much of a difference. It's the stereo setup that you can really sort of feel the environment enough that it adds a whole nother level to it. So I think that's the thing we should tackle. And that requires recording two far apart points simultaneously when we're doing this. But that doesn't really work itself into perhaps recording the cast's, like, anything that they're going to say, any of the narration or any of the lines.
Right.
So it's more environmental. If we're going to have sound effects, if we're gonna do stuff, after the fact and create certain sounds, then that can be done very well in stereo, I think.
Perfect.
And that's easier because you can set it up in a controlled environment, have two different audio recorders or one audio recorder with two different microphones coming at different angles, and you can get that feel, which
we'll need, because there's lots of some good sound effects that will need to be done.
Walking through branches or something, and while you're just going through the forest would be perfect, because you would have a shot that maybe has someone moving from left to right in the scene. You can totally map that out very easily if you're going to record the sound later.
I'm excited. Some of the stuff I'm not excited for, and other stuff I'm really excited for. It's a lot of work. I put a lot of work on myself, but it all pays off in the end when we don't have to plan things on the day.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't done shit.
I know.
That's okay.
That is okay.
I'm happy because I'm just going to cooperate. That's the typical method I have in life. We could, I don't know. It works really well because, since I build houses for a living, I just listen to those, what somebody says, say, oh, go build that wall or go do this. And it's like, I just follow what they say. I don't really got to think too much about it. I got to plan too much about it.
That's what I like about I know you'll do good work. And that's why I'm glad. I mean, you've helped when you needed to give opinion in here and there, and that's good. Yeah. But
I feel like that's pretty basic stuff that I can point out and see things through a little bit more clearly than some people.
And I'm sure it'll sound great. And then having Justin on set, he's my my gopher, because I'm gonna need him for certain things. And him and I have talked about general expectations, because as great as you and Tila are, he is the only other person that's actually been on some sort of
he's got experience,
professional set.
He's got the best credentials out of any of us, apparently. The most qualifications.
Actually, some of the actors have comparative qualifications, so that's good.
Well, I meant out of us three anyways.
Yes. Although, kind of, sort of, but
kind of, sort of. Didn't live up to what we had heard before.
Pardon?
I don't know. I just remember him being qualified with like first aid and all sorts of things.
For that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has kind of everything we need for that. As far as actual on-set experience, he's kind of on par with me, but at least he's worked with the actor side of thing and also behind the camera side of things. So when I tell him, like, not that anybody else would question it, but say, for example, Luke, who wants to help out. Although Luke probably wouldn't question it. There's probably not going to be a lot of questioning. But when I tell Justin, hey, hold this so we're diffusing the light on the actor's face, he'll know
what you're going
why
for.
We're doing it.
It's important.
It is.
And even if it's not that, just not asking questions too much. If you're going to try to proceed quickly with things, is a good method to go.
That's the big thing. We're shooting a lot in very little time.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of short films do.
I got to do some location scouting kind of this weekend, but mostly was just hanging out at a family cottage.
I'm excited to go back. Not in the winter. I'm excited to go back in a decent month, like September.
That's way better than now because we got eaten alive by deer flies.
So I'm very, very excited to go back, which is why the 3 days are nice because we get there on Friday. We shoot the fireworks stuff on Saturday.
Yeah.
You and I...
We get to blow up a whole bunch of fireworks in the tent.
You and I have a little drink afterwards, celebrate a good day.
Oh, I didn't know that was in the schedule. Perfect.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
I don't know.
I'm sure. I mean, actually, Cole won't be old enough to do so we better be careful. But other than that, I forget. Some of these people are still quite young.
Yeah, well, so it lends in nature. We got to write something with like people that we'd actually want to hang out with that are like our age and can relate to us more. I'm sure we'll find a project somewhere.
Yeah. So, location scouting. You were climbing rocks.
Yeah, checking out cliffs. There's some scenes, I guess, that take place in cliffs.
Yes.
Which there's many of them up in the sort of French River area. Lots of people go swimming up there, but hiking too. You can hike up big cliff faces that typically overlook the water, but you can find some other interesting pieces of the environment. I don't think I'd be interested in jumping off a 100-foot cliff, but maybe.
I was going based off what Tila told me.
Yeah.
So
I'd have to look up how easy it is to do that without causing injury to yourself. Because I feel like if I had somebody that was perhaps a professional diver and they talk you through, okay, if you're gonna jump off a 100-foot cliff, here's the body position, you have to use all sorts of stuff, I feel like I could make it work. So long as I know there's
risky,
something
though.
I can do
that
would mitigate getting hurt. Because obviously you cannonball, you're fucked. You dive wrong, you're fucked.
Yes.
I know there's nothing in the water that's gonna hurt, like nothing, rocks or anything
Except the
below.
water itself.
It's the water itself.
I didn't know it was that high. Like as soon
there's different cliffs that are lower, but that's the one that Tila for some reason had in mind. Which, it's a pretty intimidating looking cliff face.
It's, as I said before, we're able to make magic with cuts. You falling off of one cliff.
Movie magic.
Exactly. That's 100% what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's why Luke's excited but also disappointed. He's like, if I help, I'm never going to be able to watch the movie as just a movie.
No, I think that's a problem with just about anything that is a small production. I'm sure there's many big productions where you could act or work behind the scenes, and the final product is so much more than what you saw. There's so much more to it, whereas this, he's going to see everything if he's helping us.
It depends. He's going to help a few days. I got somebody else. But he's like, I prefer the end result towards the behind the scenes.
I mean, the only thing you get after that is what editing can do.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot. It's true.
Every project I've worked on, there's always been a small moment where I sit back and I look, you know what? This would be a fun thing to watch. It's going to be a bitch to shoot, but it'll be a fun thing to watch. Yeah. And even though this is really simple, there's still things that could go wrong.
It is interesting, and I'm cutting you off a little bit, but it's because I feel like I know where you're getting at. And the thing that I'm feeling most likewise about that recently is the little thing that we filmed up at, like, with my family or whatever for my brother, a little short. It's kind of like an intro to a TV show that he had in mind, and It's a lot of fun. I think we could even roll that right now, obviously without audio, but just so people get a little glimpse of something that we
never
made.
did show it, so we'll roll it now. What was the song supposed to be, though?
So it is Johnny Cash, Sunday Morning Coming Down. If you're at home, you can play that at the same time while you're watching that, although you won't hear us. But that's not important. So it's a funny thing, because we filmed this in the course of 2 days, roughly. I mean, we didn't film all day, every day, but it was a bit of a scramble trying to get things together.
Because it wasn't planned.
It wasn't organized.
That's
like
what I'm trying to avoid.
And it's somebody else's idea, too, so we have to sort of come up with a way to represent their creative vision. Whereas,
it's going to be an explosion.
Yeah.
An explosion.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of coming up and problem solving and things like that. And it's funny. It's cheesy, and it's not really...
Your dad is still showing people, so he's proud
of
it?
Yes, my dad is proud that he was in it and he was part of it. And
is he showing... He's showing... Because there were
family
other
members,
versions.
Friends, customers at his work, all sorts of people.
But he's showing the final version, what we would consider. Okay.
I sent him a file of it or whatever, but yeah, just a little thing. It's funny. I mean, it wasn't... It used enough cinematography that you can sort of get the shot of things happening, where, say, there's the one scene that you might see if you're watching this on the screen right now.
You just show the clipping.
A screwdriver, opening up taking apart a chair or whatever, but you show, grabbing the screwdriver and all these little components of it that you at least guide you towards seeing what's actually happening. And of course, it's a bit fast-paced. Maybe you miss it, but this was sort of meant to be the intro, so I guess people would watch it over and over again if they were watching the TV show.
Yes.
Be cool to see what it could look like with a budget.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
That's the goal for any show, but you didn't really get to your point. You said it was a lot of fun. It was scrambling. Why... You were tying it into my statement about this being a bitch to shoot. What tied it in?
It just sounded like you were going along the route of being happy about seeing the things that you've produced a little bit.
Because I know...
That's the only taste that I've gotten of it really so far, other than this podcast, which honestly I'm pretty neutral about. So
is that good or bad?
No, it's just part of my life. I enjoy it.
I enjoy it too. Yeah. No, because I know there is a combined talent that is quite talented. And we can produce things on the fly, like we did with Wee Whiskey, which was great and wonderful and rushed. This has a lot more pre-production. Mm-hmm. So the end result should look better in every way.
Be a lot more polished, a lot more thought out. Nothing.
And that's what I'm hoping for, because I think back to the first thing that I worked on, the movie with Justin, which, because this seems to be a slight clip show, play the trailer that I have from years ago.
Oh, he doesn't have any more. Oh, thank God. I'm there.
Little bit of it, anyways. That thing is like 50 to 60% of what I was expecting it. The cinematography is where it fails the most, because it was just a shitty camcorder. But the acting is about where I was expecting. Nobody was professional. The jokes surprisingly hit quite well in certain areas. The sitcom that I did, about 70%. An improvement, thankfully. That's 3 years of film school. The Mugs and Meeples commercials that we've done, the other things that we've we've done in the past, all the commercials with Beaties, the video commercials that I did with Beaties, those are almost 100% what I was expecting, minus a few small little issues. Wee Whiskey, I wasn't expecting anything. No. So it's 100% of what I wasn't expecting because I didn't know. So we should be like 85% to
hopefully, 100. Yeah.
Like it's very well planned, and hopefully
it's smooth. There's a lot of stuff for like trying to ascertain locations to shoot. You have to get permission to shoot in specific locations on private property. You have to, and we were looking at call sheets today, which is, another level of detail where you have every single actor and actress a call sheet every day of the shoot to say exactly, who to contact and what's going on at what time. It is.
And then that kind of trails down because, like, on the call sheet it says the actors have to be at the ground zero, which would be the parking lot, at 11:30. So that means that somebody, be it Justin or Luke or whoever, needs to be at that location at 11:30, which means whoever isn't going to be where we're filming because he's picking up the actors. So it's a symphony of planning. Mm-hmm. And if it works great. It probably won't work as smoothly as I think, but because the planning is there, it hopefully isn't a train wreck.
Oddly enough, I'm kind of used to this kind of work just because working in construction, you constantly deal with other trades and things that you have to be orchestrated around. And of course, you're usually designated at certain times to do certain things, but
which is what we're going to be doing.
Supervisors aren't always top on that. So, they say, oh yeah, you can do whatever framing in the basement, and you get there and they're like, oh, it's not insulated yet. Never mind. We can't do that. Little things.
So it'll be fun. It'll be very interesting. And it'll be
a little bit of problem solving too. I mean, we can't plan for the problem solving necessarily because we've tried to get everything as smooth as possible, but some of the things that we've decided we're going to do aren't going to work, and we're going to have to figure out something else, which is another side of it that I kind of enjoy.
As long as it's not, hey, you can't shoot here, because then that's a big problem.
Then you run somewhere and you run and gun and you try to make it work as best you can. And we do have permission to shoot many places. We have options to go certain places.
Yeah. But no, that's what is fun. And it's a weird, I don't know if it's a similar thing. Like if a artist, a painter wants to paint a picture, that's a pretty simple task. If you're talented enough to paint a picture.
And the idea of, you don't need permissions, you don't need to orchestrate things around you.
Perhaps filmmaking is a weird art form because it's very businessy. It has to be. It doesn't have to be, but it should be if you want to get stuff done right.
It necessitates a lot more than even music, because music is much more easy to make in an independent manner, and it complements the business side of it a lot, but film almost doesn't work unless there's money, unless there's organization, unless there's strictness about it.
And there can be less organization if there's a lot of money, because you can just pay, well, you know what, we need this location for another 10 days. Here you go.
Yeah, people don't need to really be organized at that point as much.
But if you're running on a low budget, you have to be organized to the max.
Yeah.
And keep everybody well fed and happy. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an interesting part of it. We have to manage people that are not our friends. They're not here to be, supportive. They're here to get a specific thing done, and it benefits them in their own tangible way, hopefully. Oh, exactly. And if we don't come through on what we've promised, they're going to be disappointed and not cooperative.
I was having a conversation with a coworker, and I was explaining the process. And she was like, oh, well, that's cool. How long is the movie going to be? And I said, maybe about 20 minutes, maybe 15. Like, it's hard to tell. We're aiming for 20.
Yeah.
If it runs long and it doesn't drag on, 25. If it needs to go shorter because of pacing issues, then we edit it to the point where it's shorter.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's only be 20 minutes. You're putting all that work for 20 minutes. I'm like, once we said we're going to hire people that aren't our friends, it now becomes our responsibility to not suck.
Yeah.
Basically, one of the big things for me, as soon as I saw that fake leg that stub from the
Makeup
artist. I'm
Yep.
like, well, she's really good. So now we're representing her, and we're representing all these actors. So now the pressure's on, which is cool.
I think it'd be interesting to look at things from the perspective of people that will hire these actors in the future. Because I don't know necessarily how much they look at the quality of the production overall versus what they can see in the specific actor or actress's input into it. Like, for instance...
That's exactly what they look at.
Yeah, like, they're not going to necessarily... We don't really represent them in that specific way. We're giving them a platform, if anything, and they're going to be as good as they're going to be, depending on their own skill level.
Yes.
And, of course, their prospective employers in the future are worried about that.
Why, if time allows, I've mentioned it to Tila and you, and I think it's important. One, when we're shooting, if we come up with a joke that makes sense, we shoot it. Because even if it doesn't work later, we will never know until we're editing.
No. You see that
two,
punchline lands.
yes, give the actors one take to just ad lib. You have point A, you have point B. You know where you need to get to, and then let them go.
One is a little bit restricting.
Pardon?
One's a little bit restricting. I don't know. If they want to just ad lib,
it depends on time.
it's hard to stop them.
Right, but you just yell cut. Like, you need to follow the script, and then if you get it very quickly, then you can ad lib a little bit.
That makes sense. That's a reward for getting the
If
line.
time allows, do one. If it doesn't allow,
Hopefully, we're dealing with some creative writers at that point that can come up with
some
their
of
own
them seem
material.
funny. Some of them, it'll be interesting.
Are they the like dramatic arts types for the most part?
See, that was the very interesting thing about the.
Because I'm used to
sitcom
people
with
of
Robert.
the dramatic art
right?
types.
None of them have a stage background.
Really, I like that already.
All of them are
different.
aiming for TV background. I think one of them has a mix, but she's aiming more for TV film,
Okay.
which is nice because in working in other projects, the sitcom, there were people that had TV backgrounds, we'll say Justin, and there were people that had stage backgrounds. And the quality of the actors in the stage background field performing in front of a camera range from great to horrible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I
there's a
won't
good
say
range.
who was who, but
I want to go on a little bit of a tangent and
we always do.
And talk about in dramatic arts. There's a big focus on improv acting on
Yes.
stage, and I like improv shows, but probably not for the same reason that most people do.
Okay.
It's sort of a sick pleasure in I want to see how awkward shit can get in the weird things that people come up with for improv. Like, people will grasp at the most simplest scenario or anything that they can sort of glide by on. It's a bit difficult to describe. If somebody's really talented at improv, they could sure sell it, but they better hope that they're working with somebody that also can sell it just as well as they can.
Yes.
Because usually it's one person who really carries the whole thing, and it's somebody who really doesn't have anything to contribute.
That's why Whose Line Is It Anyway is a great show. Because you have all these talented improv people, and some of their scenarios are in the hands of amateurs would be very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But
They're almost always awkward in a university setting because people are still learning how to do it and all that. But
that's how you learn.
it has a weird feel to it. That's
are halfway through the year, and we have never actually taken the whole stand-up route seriously.
That's true. I've mostly forgotten about it. I don't know.
I still think it'd be interesting to try.
It would be. I don't know if anybody cares. That's another thing.
So what?
Anybody watching, do you think that we should push ourselves to do stand-up?
Even if we try it once, like, nobody cares about the 5 minute,
I guess.
just to see if you can get to see if you're actually any good, if there's any type of skill there.
Who's the young guy that works with Joey Diaz on that one podcast that I don't know if it's Joey Diaz's podcast or not. Whatever. Do you know who I'm talking about? I don't even know.
I just don't know the name.
Okay.
But yeah.
So yeah, the young guy is kind of socially awkward. I heard that he's pursuing like a comedy career or something, which I thought was interesting. And I guess they're stopping the show because of that, or something.
I did not know that.
Or maybe he's just taking off from the show.
You know that comedian that opened for Kreischer? Dusty Slay. Do you remember him?
No,
Him?
I only remember Bert Kreischer.
Okay. Well, the comedian that opened for Bert Kreischer, named Dusty Slay, I thought at the beginning was very awkward, but he had a few really good jokes. He's doing quite well for himself. He was on Fallon last week, and he's actually making a name for himself. Which makes sense, because you wouldn't open for Kreischer, who's also making a name for himself.
If you were crap.
Yes.
I'm sure he was good. I just don't remember him.
Good.
Bert Kreischer was fantastic.
Yes.
So that erased any memory I had before that.
He was really good. I don't know. I just think it'd be fun just to do. Just to say. Because if you suck, you never have to do it again. But if you get a laugh or two, you might...
Not worried about the pressure. I don't know if I really want to write the jokes. At the same time, well, I could probably come up with enough of a reason. There's so many things on my mind that I want to do that I don't know if I should add another one.
Well, then don't. It's just we had talked about it before.
It's true. There's an interesting thing we do, and almost it's more of a reason for me to go back and listen to these than anything, is I leave myself hints of things to do. Like, for instance, on a podcast not so long ago, when it was just you and I mentioned, we were talking about things that we could go back and watch and listen to again, or something like old, kids TV shows and things like that. And then one of the things, like, for future Eric, go check out Car Talk, which was an NPR show or whatever.
That episode,
yeah. And it was just because I'm like, I know everything I know about cars pretty much since the point that I stopped watching that show or listening to that show. I went back and I heard it because I ended up listening to it in a situation in a car or whatever. And then I listened to Car Talk and I was like, yes, I do appreciate this more. It's a good idea. That's I think you know who Howard Bloom is, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. He has a lot of YouTube content. I mean, beyond the career of all of his promotional stuff for like music artists and stuff. And he had a big video on how the biggest limitation for most humans is that we don't continuously record our ideas, in the sense that we have lots of good ideas or things that we should do for ourselves that we don't ever commit to because we just forget. We move on to other things. You're sitting in the bathroom, you have a brilliant idea of some way you could fix some problem you have. By the time you leave, it's gone, and you'll never think of it again. But we almost have technology that mitigates it at this point, and it's getting so close to the point where you could have something, planted in your brain, for instance, that would just take down the good ideas and do the hard work for you. We also talked about on that podcast too, the whole Futurama episode where they have the iPhone. It's implanted in the eye, but similar concept.
Well, for me, for the most part, I have to listen to everything. So I do get the things that we talk about, and sometimes I'll send you, like, if that Arthur joke that I was telling you.
Yeah, it was funny.
As soon as I heard it, I found a clip and sent it to you because I knew you weren't going to watch the episode.
Audience, there's an episode of Arthur where Arthur and his friend are in an attic and they're looking through books and they're dusty. And the one guy gets asthma attack, and they find out he has asthma, gets taken to the hospital. Arthur's on the porch talking to his dad, tells his dad, shouldn't have looked at those dirty old books. Dad looks in shock and horror.
And it's funny.
It's funny. It lands. You should look it up.
Yes.
Anyways, I feel like that summary was necessary. Yeah.
No, so it is interesting. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how long we could do this, because I realize that like Joe Rogan is doing it for different reasons than we might be doing it. I mean, we're still just chugging along, but think of what it would be like to hear the stories that we're telling 2 years from now.
I'm going to take a diversion. Yes, I'm sure that's interesting. But what if we went a different route? What if screw the stories, screw the personal stuff, which is what we've always done, and we do like a show? Because I just, that video that we watched together talked about how somebody did, what was it, like a crime? Was it a crime story or something? Yeah. Basically, you pull the audience in, you get them enthralled. It's more of a storytelling thing than it is personal life or just having a conversation. And that's not the only route. You could have, for instance, Car Talk that I'm talking about. Yes, it was a show produced for radio, but the point is it's an hour. It's always an hour where they take calls from people and they sort of answer car questions, but in the funniest way you could imagine it, really. I think there's lots of quirky ideas for shows out there.
Well, if we, like, some of the best conversations I ever had on the radio show with Kevin was when we implemented the phone line. Because we did have people call in.
That throws things in the mix, things that are
external. A lot of
external.
people were doing it to prank Kevin. Tommy Wiseau called all the time to talk to Kevin. And Kevin had no idea who it was, but it was one of our...
It was a good impression
it was a
of Tommy
decent
Wiseau.
impression. And I know Kevin's not listening to this, but Kevin, I know who it was. And it was so fun to fuck with you sometimes.
He doesn't even know after college is over.
No.
That's crazy.
He still thinks Tommy Wiseau is out there. So, and then some of them were actual legitimate questions and whatnot. So it was cool. The only thing is, and I think we need to find a way to do, at the very least, this one, like when it's the two of us, live. Even if it's just one friggin' camera angle. Because...
Okay. Hey, next time, we'll do it. No excuses. We're going to do it.
Cell phone.
Don't care. We're going to do it somehow. It's going to sound good, too, I hope.
Yes.
So, yeah, we can do that live.
It's different when there's a guest.
Here's the thing. How did your, in college days, how did you broadcast yourselves? What was
on the
it?
radio.
AM, FM, what?
90.1 FM.
FM. Okay.
You're listening to 90.1 FM, The Heat.
And you all the students were very well versed in the rules of broadcasting, like, because there's very
that was the
strict
point.
rules. Okay, but at the point, like, you have to learn a lot before you would be able to do it at that
We
point.
didn't get to go live on the air till second semester.
Interesting.
Because they're an operating radio station with advertisements and whatnot, so they have to follow the rules.
We could look into what it would take,
Oh, God.
as pointless as this is, to broadcast it in some radio wave analog frequency. I don't know how hard it is to broadcast. And
We've had this conversation before, Eric.
have we?
Yes.
Why would we? I don't know why we would even talk
We've
about
had this conversation on the air here before,
Awesome.
too.
So what was the conclusion?
The conclusion was, it's pointless.
It is pointless. No. I'm just saying it for the sake of doing it.
The conclusion was, you can't do it for free. And the cost is kind of prohibitive.
I don't know what an AM broadcasting setup would cost. So you wouldn't be able to transmit terribly far, I suppose. But
Yes. So I think we kind of kiboshed it.
That's fair.
But I like the idea of doing it live, and I like the idea of potentially taking calls. That's all stuff that's reasonably easy to do.
Most people, at least on any YouTube channel that I watch, will always use something like Discord or Skype or whatever to take calls. So that's even sort of mitigated around the idea of using a cell phone.
Yes,
You don't really have to do
because
that
you don't
anymore.
want people calling you at random hours of the day.
Not particularly, no. Although you can block numbers, I guess.
Yes, but that's not good fan interaction if you're blocking the people that want to talk to you.
Not exactly, no.
No, the radio would be interesting. There are a lot of rules. Like we followed very strict guidelines as far as what we could say and whatnot, and that's what made it interesting, because Kevin and I were so back and forth. So there were jokes that were alluded to, which is why listening to Tila's recap after the show, it was funny because she would get the jokes. So, like, there'd be so many references where I would just be calling Kevin gay. No offense, it's not PC. Without calling him gay and stuff like that. Or just stupid things. We did end up swearing on the last episode because we had already passed.
Who's going to do anything about it?
Exactly. So, but yeah, I don't know. We're already on, like, think about this. I know the rules... They're just looking for numbers, but in the past year, and I realized we probably could have tried from day one, we are on Spotify, we're on the Google Play Store, we're on Apple's podcast, and we are on the Heart FM? iHeartRadio, which I forget about all the time, but that one was the one that it took like 6 months for them to accept us.
They must have had to go through and listen to our stuff.
Yeah. So.
Maybe that employee's a fan. Probably not.
He hates our guts.
It's probably multiple employees. I don't know what that is. That not-for-profit organization, or like what is iHeartRadio?
Well, they own a lot of radio stations. Like iHeart is a brand, so there's iHeart Music Festivals, there's iHeart Radio, so they own a bunch of things. I guess there's iHeart Podcast now.
Okay, another tangent. So since we've last had a chance to sit down together, we saw Jimmy Buffett. And that's funny because the last time that we sat down together, just us, we talked and alluded to going to see Jimmy Buffett.
Yes.
And you explained how he was a businessman and that manner of things. That was an awesome show.
It was so nice to see you enjoy it. I'm so glad you did, and I'm so glad you got drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the best way to see him.
I was planning on having 2 king cans of Budweiser, which altogether would have been about 1.4 to 1.5 liters of beer. But then Jesse decided to buy me a third, so I ended up consuming...
You're welcome.
Somewhere between 2,100 to, I don't know, 2,300. I don't know how much is in a king can. But basically about 2.5 liters of beer.
I wanted you to have a good time.
I had a good time.
Until the next morning.
No, even the morning I was fine. You know what sucks, and I've heard everybody talk about it too, is if you have to take public transit after drinking. Because it was really annoying on the train. There was no access to water, which I really wanted at that point in time, or at least something to drink to keep me hydrated, and I didn't have it. So it was just a pounding headache the entire time I was on the train. As soon as I had something to drink, not so bad.
That A&W was good.
Got some A&W. That was fantastic.
Well, I think the train was, right off the bat when we got to Toronto, it was very clear the train was a great idea because having to deal with the Indy and everything, that would have been
they were doing
plus
races.
I was too drunk to drive when we left the concert still.
Perfect.
So we
had a train.
We were able to... Yes, there were some setbacks with the headache and whatnot, but we were able to properly enjoy the concert.
Great on stage.
He knows how to put on a show.
I like that he has a conversation sort of with the audience, and he, tells jokes and all that stuff.
The songs,
and it's less set changes. Because when I saw Ozzy, between pretty much every song or every couple songs, he'd go off stage, and there'd be a period in between where it was just, they're changing whatever the heck's going on stage. Kind of annoying. Kind of breaks the atmosphere. Whereas Jimmy Buffett stayed on the stage most of the show. There was maybe 2-3 set changes, something like that.
Yep.
Not bad at all.
But he's also, and Ozzy is touring with talented musicians too. But
yes,
Jimmy always gives his other guitarists, Mac McAnally, a chance to perform because he's an award-winning musician that has decided, I have a career outside of Buffett, but he really likes to perform with Jimmy.
Yeah.
But because he's a better guitarist than Buffett, and Buffett will admit it, Buffett will give him a chance to perform, and Nadira Shakur, the
singer,
really talented,
really good, yeah.
So why not? It fills the show. He gets a break, obviously, and it just makes for a good show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So I enjoyed it too. It was the most fun that I've had at a Jimmy Buffett concert while still remembering the concert. Because it's not the most drunk I've been at a Jimmy Buffett concert. And I know I had more fun at that one, but I don't remember the concert. This one was a great medium.
For anybody that's looking to go out to Budweiser stage, and I'm sure the prices vary, but a king can of anything it costs $16.50, which is pretty crazy.
Yes.
But I guess that's what you pay to be drunk in a different place.
Yes. Those seats.
The seats were amazing, too. So you got these tickets from an auction of some kind. Somebody bid in an auction for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It must have been no more than 50 feet from the stage.
Yeah, it was. It was close. I remember getting there and us showing the ushers the tickets. They're like, "Oh no, you're down another row." We're like, "Okay." We walk there. They're like, "You're over," and then by the time you get there, you were like, "Holy fuck!" Like we were close. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You actually see him, which was nice. I got them for $100 each, and they are about $200 per ticket. So,
it's a good deal.
Good deal. It was a charity auction, so
I think my expectations are a bit consistent in you can hear the stage better from further back because obviously it's not so blaringly loud that it distorts everything in your ears. But it's kind of, once you're drinking, it doesn't really matter anymore.
And you've listened. I actually have a small pile. I don't want to say a pile, but I have a few small things to lend to you, since you enjoyed Jimmy Buffett.
What kind of things?
Well, like a book and an audiobook.
An audiobook?
Yes.
Written by him?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a really good writer, and this audio book, between the audiobook or the actual physical book, I try to read it or listen to it once every year or once every year and a half, because it's a vacation to read.
Huh.
Like, it's such... Remember how I mentioned this to you? The Beach Bum has such an interesting plot because it's going through its plot, but if it were any other movie, you'd be like, when is it starting? Like, it meanders, but it meanders with a point.
Yeah.
The audiobook that I would lend to you also meanders. Like, there's no villain. There's a few small villains, but it's weird.
So this is a work of fiction, then?
Yes.
Okay.
And
that's interesting.
It's hard to describe.
It's hard for me to imagine what this could possibly be like.
As a book, I think you'd like it.
I'll take a stab at it. I'm starting to collect credits on Audible at this point, so I haven't picked a new book in a little while because I'm taking a while to get to a philosophy textbook. So I don't know. I got a bunch of stuff I'm probably going to read after that. I'll pick shorter content so I can get through it a little bit more of it.
But it's fun, and then it's the only audiobook version I have, although I am going to acquire another audiobook, not by Jimmy Buffett, but it's called Don't Stop the Carnival. And
I think I've heard of that before.
Have you heard of a guy named Henry Walk? He's a writer.
Maybe.
Old school writer. It's either Henry or Herman. Herman Walk.
Herman Walk. I don't know.
It might be Herman. Anyways.
Couldn't say.
And it's... They make reference in other books about it, and it is basically the Bible for expats that go down to the tropics and try to do something.
When was this written?
Years ago, like in the 50s.
Okay, so it's probably very different now.
It's very different, but the whole story is about a guy who works on Broadway, has a heart attack, and decides, I'm buying a resort. You can see why I like the book, right?
I think we've talked about this.
Yes, we have.
Before,
I'm buying a resort, and it's just his trials and tribulations. He deals with a headhunter. Like, it's a farce. But it's...
Sounds amazing.
It's a very good
amazing
book.
Story to tell.
Yes. A little bit racist sometimes, but
the
that
50s.
was the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, very good. I like... I mean, that's not Buffett, but I like Buffett's books. He has a very interesting way of writing. And he's the only... I've said this before, but he's one of the only authors to make it on the top on the New York Times best-selling fiction, nonfiction, and children's book.
Pretty neat.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to talk about necessarily, so I guess I'll just tell a thing that I was going to tell anyways. We talked about the Me Fit band, whatever, 3 last podcast.
This is the first day that I can confirm, because you have no proof, that I have walked more steps than you.
It's true. So I had the Xiaomi Mi Fit Band 3.
You're going to get another one?
Yeah. So I guess I haven't told the story because Tila decided to spoil it to you. But anyways, I lost my fitness tracker jumping off cliffs into the water because I was swimming. And it's weird not being with it after half a year of using it to wake up every single day on the vibrate alarm and using it to track I'd say quite a few things about my sleep or step counts or whatever it is. So I definitely knew the instant that I lost it that I had to get a new one, and by the time I got out of the water I was already on my phone ordering a new one. So now I'm getting the Mi Fit Band 4. And I might be getting
updated version?
Yes, and I might be getting scammed. Because on Amazon, you can get them for as cheap as $59. They're on sale for some reason, but I know that's a reasonable price to pay for them. So I said, I want to go to eBay, see what kind of price I can get. Most of the ones on eBay
$29.99
are listed for about $45. But I found one, and all the other ones I had seen shipped as early as like August 7th. So a little while. That's like almost 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
This one was $23. Way cheaper than all the rest. And it shipped as early as July 30th. So I paid it. I bought it. The person had good reviews as a seller. They had more than 2,000 reviews. So maybe I'm going to get a half price, fast shipped Mi Band 4.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm half expecting to open the box and it'll be the Mi Band 3, and they just expect me not to know the difference.
Would you be that disappointed?
No.
Though?
$22 is a pretty good price for that one, too.
So.
Well, that's unfortunate that you lost it.
I don't care at all.
When we first started talking about it,
I had complained about the fact that the vibration didn't wake me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Now it does.
Oh, that's good.
So I've acclimatized to it, and between this and also just a backup alarm just in case, which goes off a minute after it vibrates, I'm up.
I do at least 5 minutes because I sometimes forget to turn my alarm off on my phone, which is annoying. If I do it too close anyways, because I'll be like, I'll set the wrist off, look at my phone, go to Instagram or something, and then the alarm goes off while I'm still laying in bed. I'm like, fuck! This mitigates the point of trying to wake up silently.
Yes. Justin finally just replied. He's like, oh dear, to his BlackBerry phone for the movie.
Because he got the BlackBerry.
It's the first time I think...
We were very prepared for this movie because we got model dummy phones, like the kind you see in Walmart.
As weird as it sounds,
somewhere.
That was the catalyst for this movie. I think, like...
Use what you got.
If you go back to the very beginning, Tila was given a box of these phones. She's like, we'll make a movie, like, do something
based on these props.
Destroy these phones somehow, and then here we are.
Yeah.
So, kind of a neat...
Better than what I would have done. My typical thing for things that I know I can destroy is I'll just like shoot them or something.
Yes. Well,
like I had an iPod Nano, didn't really work as expected, so I shot it. It's fun.
I mean, we have enough that you could shoot a few at the cottage.
Yeah. It's not the same though, because I don't really have internal phone guts. They're just metal. So I kind of know what that's going to look like.
Well, still. We have them. You could do it.
Maybe one of the actors will get shot in the movie, and then we can film a phone getting shot. Be good. That's almost a good death scene for like a final one, because you could have the phone get destroyed simultaneously with the actor. It could just go through the phone. I don't know.
Sequel.
There you go.
Hopefully one of the actors is really cool, and we want to interview them on the podcast.
Hopefully. They're from a far away, it seems, from Niagara Falls.
It's not as far. The furthest one that ever contacted me, and I really wanted him to audition because he was really good and really excited, but he was fucking from Montreal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way you're coming. And then we had...
It's pretty far.
Somebody who lived in Barrie. And on the day of the audition, I had been talking to him back and forth, and he was like, was it paid? I'm like, it's not paid. Like, these people...
They don't read. No.
And it's a problem. One guy today, I won't mention names, on his contract didn't know the name of the project that he's auditioned for.
I have no faith in actors.
Every project I work on becomes less and less. So this guy, even on the day, he's messaging me. He's like, actually, I don't want to send in a tape. I would like to come and audition for you. I'm like, well, you know what? That's really good, because at first I thought he's not getting paid. He doesn't want to do it. So I'm like, okay, what time would you like? He's like, well, like 10 o'clock's fine. I'm just driving down from Barrie. Like, that's a hike.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, it's in Toronto, isn't it? Like, the very first email I sent you is a Niagara-based production. Nobody listens. Nobody reads.
Difference between a 40-minute drive and a 2-hour drive.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And then the London girl, the London actress, she knew. And she was still excited. She's very excited to be a part of it. And there's people like that I don't want to disappoint.
Yeah, we owe them something in our own Work ethic.
It is not exactly the same, but this is a TFP project. Remember what it means? Michaela taught us.
Trade for
Pics.
but it's not really pics.
That's why I said it's not exactly. Trade for MP. Trade for moving pictures. And you have to somehow plan, probably on day 1 or 2 or 3, when everybody's there, a photo shoot for the poster.
Easy. I already had an idea.
Yes, I know. So now you have to stage it.
Actually, we don't need everybody for that. That's an easy one to film. Only need one person. But
Well, on the day that he actually gets the stuff that happens to him, everybody will be there. And if you could get them all lined up, panicking, it'd be a good everybody poster.
yeah, the best part about the film poster is it doesn't actually have to happen in the movie, and it doesn't have to necessarily make sense with the plot. It just has to use themes in the movie. So
hey, a 7-minute Photoshop job at least got the point across. There's somebody in a forest with a broken cell phone and blood.
Yeah.
And I was happy with it.
Yeah. As long as you can convey that. I think your poster should always convey something about the art.
Yes.
We had Teresa Jacobs on that not that long ago, and we criticized the poster a little bit because it didn't really give you much of a clue. It was a picture of somebody's face.
2 people's faces.
2 people's faces.
Standing side by side or lying side by side.
There was some... I cringed every time. Instead of saying demon, she said demoned. Like a mom from the... Born in the 70s. I don't know. It's a very specific reference.
have some issues with the way that she runs her writing business, and I also have some issues with the production behind that film.
I don't know. We should go see the film when it comes out.
I'm following it because I want to see it and it'll probably be in a festival setting. But I definitely want to see it because I know the behind the scenes, and there's just small issues that really bothered me. But it was, again, I won't give away who, but there's a lot of new actors, as I've said, in this short film. And I was talking to one of them today, and they sent me a message like, when it's done, are we all going to watch it together? Like, she was really excited about watching it all together, which is cool. And I said, yes, but probably at a festival. And she replied back, like with rides and stuff? Like, oh, right. And I laughed, and
She didn't know what a film festival was.
It's brand new, right?
Wow. Cool. I feel like film festivals are sort of a thing that you can understand through pop culture, and they're just like, yeah, that's things that, crazy film people do.
To her credit, I could have said film set or film festival, and I just said festival.
Yeah,
but whatever.
We're gonna go to a carnival and they're gonna play our stuff.
Well, you never know. It's a freak show. No, that's a whole other.
I think we've talked a bit about the little thing we're gonna do, and I think I'm happy to leave it at that.
Me too. It was a nice little ramble.
Yeah,
Needed to ramble.
let's do it again sometime in a room with no name and no location.
Yes.
So far as y'all know.
Yeah.
See you next time.
For listening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the podcast.
Yes.
Bye.
Goodbye.